Welcome to Healing Honeys, the podcast for girls with big dreams trying to balance it all. I'm Louise Rumble, serial entrepreneur, type A overachiever, healing girly, and holistic wellness coach who also once got called the Jesus of modern dating. But let's get one thing straight. My healing era has never been calm. I'm talking savage dating stories, 20 cigarettes a day, daddy issues, an anxious attachment style, and an autoimmune disorder too. Today, I've spent thousands of dollars on healing and therapy, and now I'm here to guide you, love you, and laugh with you as I share my favorite tips, tricks, and rituals that have saved me along the way. With new episodes every Wednesday, expect girl talk, psychology, and the nervous system, as well as love, sex, and dating, wellness, fitness, and a little bit of business and spirituality too. So get in, honey. We are balancing healing, hustling, and life, and the best is yet to come. And if you're looking for ad-free listening or my somatic healing subscription daily devotion, just head over to the show notes. Now, let's get into it. Hi, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Healing Honeys. Today, I'm sitting down with my go-to integrative health queen. She's literally a health visionary, Sarah Murphy. You might know her as the potent plant. And today, we're going to unpack the rise of autoimmunity, the rise of hormonal imbalances, the rise of unexplainable symptoms, whether that's gut or hormone or skin, whatever it is, we are connecting the dots today between the busy, modern, type A women, and we discuss how this hustle, crash, repeat cycle is showing up in the body of all of the women around me. This has been my journey. If you know me and you know my story, this episode comes with 20 years of trying to find answers, and answers I have found because my unexplainable and unhealable chronic pain disorder, fibromyalgia, is rarely part of my life like how it used to be. And this journey has taken me inward into questioning myself, connecting with myself, querying with myself, understanding myself, learning how to connect into my sensitivity and my emotions and my experiences. All kinds of things that I had no idea I wasn't even good at before starting this journey. So I'm so excited to maybe be the starting point for this journey for you, because I just see so many women around me who need this episode, need answers, need inspiration, and need the belief that healing is possible. But before we dive in, I want to tell you something time sensitive that I have created not only for me, but also for you. It's called the morning rally. It is a morning walk ritual that literally flips your morning in just 23 minutes. It's based around interval-paced walking, euphoric music, oxygenating breath work, circadian syncing, and mindset cues too. And it is designed for you. If you are listening to this episode, this walk has been designed for you. For the people who are always on, always busy, juggling a million things, and then kind of also wondering, like, when is it my turn to feel really, really good? I created this walk because anyone with any type of symptoms know that they need to come down or calm down. But the real internal tension is that if you are the type of woman like me, coming down and calming down is just so unnatural and unfamiliar to you that you so rarely do it. So I knew I needed to create a solution that could deliver breath work, that could deliver EFT tapping, that could downregulate the nervous system, that could reduce cortisol, which in turn is going to reduce your estrogen dominance, which in turn is going to calm your PCOS. I knew I needed to do all of these things without telling you that you needed a 60-step morning routine, or without telling you that you just needed to meditate. So I am here, and we're on a mission now to redefine the walking market. I truly believe that no one is doing it well, no one is doing it properly, and all of the walking meditations that I have tried did not hit the production quality, the guidance, and there was no stacking, there was no layering, and there was no supercharging. So the morning rally is about to be birthed. I am beyond excited. I've just been in New York testing it. So if you're listening to this before Monday, September the 28th, we are launching this 3-day, 3-walk challenge live on Monday the 28th. And I want to give you a little gift. So if you're listening and you want to join, all walks drop inside the Daily Devotion app, available on Apple and Android. And because this is our very first round, I want to make this a really easy yes for my podcast girls who have been on this journey with me. So the first 100 people who decide to come and rally with me can use code podcast at checkout for a 7-day free trial and 50% off your first month, making the entire experience just £15, which is $21, which is crazy. You'll also get access to a 60 to 90 minute masterclass with Sarah and I. So if you're listening to this episode, you are going to love that because we go deeper. And you also get access to nutritionally backed, totally balanced power up breakfast recipes, my morning fuel recipe, and also the supplement list for the type A woman, because trust me, wellness influencers, they do not understand your unique biology, which has led through your own biological vulnerability to you having symptoms, to you having a diagnosis of an autoimmune. So if you're listening to this episode, this was made for you. You are never going to find a morning ritual, a community, a solution that is more aligned with your life and what you need to continue on your health and happiness journey. You also get access to over 100 plus somatic rituals as well. So if you want to add on breath work, somatic Pilates, EFT tapping, manifestation walks, there is something for everyone. All of this is linked in the show notes. And if you're listening to this after the live challenge, come and join us anyway. These walks aren't going anywhere. But I am excited because if your mornings feel hard or impossible and coffee just doesn't cut it, or you're waiting for things to get calmer, which, spoiler alert, they never do, I promise you, starting to rally with me and my girls is going to change everything. Now, let's get into today's conversation with Sarah, where we connect the dots between stress chemistry, hormones, fascia, and actually why your body isn't attacking you. It's just confused. So excited for you to get into this episode. It's the episode that I needed decades ago, the episode that I haven't found anywhere else, and so excited for you to experience what Sarah and I have to share. Now, most of all, have an amazing day, and this is your daily reminder to be kind to yourself, to be soft for yourself, and to do something for you today. I love you. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Healing Honeys. And today is probably the episode that I should have launched this podcast with. But somehow we are here 225 episodes in, finally talking about the rise of autoimmune. Finally talking about the connection between busy fucking women, stressed women, type A women. This has been my journey. You know that if you know me. I'm not going to go into my story today, but just know that my 20-year autoimmune disorder, fibromyalgia, finally pushed me into therapy, which led me to somatic healing, which led me to Sarah, and which led me to ultimately heal it. I do not live in pain anymore. I feel amazing. And that has been through a lot of the work we're going to talk about today. So really excited to have Sarah Murphy, the potent plant, back with us on today's episode. She's a powerhouse of information. If you're a frequent listener of this podcast, you will already know her. Chances are you will already love her, and you also might be working with her too. But this is the woman that helped me connect the dots around what was going on in my life when doctors couldn't. So today we are going to bring you so much insight, biological, psychological, somatic, energetic, you name it. How are you, Sarah?
Hi, Louise. Thank you so much for having me on here. It's been quite a while since I've been on a podcast, so I'm so excited to get into this particular topic because I think so many women today are really struggling with connecting the dots with their health issues and what's going on underneath the surface of the autoimmunity diagnosis. I personally have experienced autoimmunity in my life. I was diagnosed with psoriasis, so this is such a subject that's so close to my heart, and I'm just so excited to teach the world and give the education so people can understand deeper, really understand themselves to be able to heal themselves.
100%. And I appreciate you sharing that you've battled and journeyed through psoriasis as well. We see this everywhere. Autoimmune is everywhere. You only have to look at the numbers to see what has happened over the last few decades of life and how this is more prevalent than ever before. And if I look at the women around me, I can't think of many of my best friends who do not have some sort of chronic issue. I have a best friend with chronic recurring UTIs. I have multiple friends who have PCOS. I have another friend with psoriasis. And I have lots of friends who are also dealing with their thyroid as well, which I know is something that you specialize in. And you see these types of women really, really battling with and journeying through, even if they don't realize that is what is going on. So you are the expert at this. And not only are you the expert at autoimmunity, you are 5 years ahead of the world. And I think where we will begin is that if you are sat here listening to this today, maybe you're walking, whatever you are doing, your autoimmune disorder did not start in this moment. It didn't even start 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And a big part of my healing journey was realizing that the foundations for autoimmunity for both me and my brother, yes, my brother also has an autoimmune disorder, were laid before we were even born. So let's start with this statement. You inherit the nervous system of your mother. Let's just talk about how your experience as a little bubba in utero lays the foundation for what is going to happen in our health life from the moment we are conceived.
Yes. Okay. So when we say you inherit your mother's nervous system, what we're really talking about is that your very first nervous system experience actually happens in utero. Okay. So before you are even born, the first environment isn't the outside world, it's actually in the placenta. And through the placenta, every hormone, every rhythm, every fluctuation of safety or stress in the mother flows directly to the baby. Like, that's like the craziest thing ever. And I had to study this myself because my mother was really stressed when I was in womb. So, if your mother is stressed, her stress hormones actually cross over. And that essentially teaches the baby not only what the world might be like, but how to wire its nervous system from the beginning. So, think about that. Your mother's stress hormones are actually wiring your nervous system from the beginning. And if this stress is constant in the womb, not just a moment, so there's a pattern of stress, the baby is going to have a lack of oxygen and glucose, which are the baby's main fuel. That main fuel starts to get restricted. And then the baby's development and growth of the nervous system starts to go towards survival. So, this is where that sympathetic dominance gets very imprinted very early on. The baby starts getting hypervigilant. The baby starts protecting itself. The baby gets a very tight fascia. The baby starts breathing shallow, and that fight or flight state actually becomes the baby's default mode. And we talk about epigenetics here. Stress really leaves an epigenetic imprint on the baby. So the mother's stress response can actually change the baby's HPA excess, which is the stress excess that makes the baby reactive. So if your HPA excess is offline, this means as an adult, you're going to have HPA excess dysfunction. So this means that stress is going to feel so overwhelming to you when you're older and you won't be able to handle this stress. Another thing to note is that, the immune system and the microbiome of your mother becomes your immune system and your microbiome. So, what this means is that when the microbiome is off, you are actually destined to have more inflammation, more immune system problems, and a faulty microbiome, which is going to mean faulty stress patterns and a faulty stress response. So the mom's stress essentially becomes your entire environment, and you take that stress on later in life, and that is your entire nervous system state.
So crazy. And I think also what's really important to understand is that this isn't just that your mum went through a major trauma during pregnancy. That absolutely does happen. That is life. What Sarah has taught me and what I've learned through my work is that internal stress can come through so many ways. It can be your mother's trauma that she has not processed. It can be your mother's blood sugar dysregulation, how she is eating in pregnancy. It can be her mineral deficiencies. It can be her thoughts. If she is petrified about giving birth, maybe she was a young mom, maybe she's financially stressed. We have seen the studies that internal thoughts have a biochemical impact on our body. So just for the people that are thinking, well, my mom wasn't very stressed, that's not me. Just to help you also understand that actually these foundations were being laid, even if your mum wasn't aware of it. And this is not to scare people, it's just to help us understand that one day, if we are pregnant or if you are pregnant listening to this, that the foundations of health are so important. And that's one of the reasons that I haven't had babies yet, is like, it wouldn't be fair for me to bring a baby into my nervous system because I work and am stressed. So I just wanted to build on that.
No, you're absolutely right. It's her entire environment that shapes who you are and how safe you feel in the world. And that's your first imprint. So that's really important to understand. And it's not to place blame on your mother. It's just for you to understand how you are the way that you are and just understand it a little bit deeper.
Exactly. And there's a lot of things in today's episode that might trigger people. The
Yeah.
next one being included, which is the impact of birth and the impact of cesarean and the impact of being a premature baby. We know that these things are very triggering for some people. This whole episode is delivered with love. Whatever your role and circumstances are or have been, we see you, we support you, we love you. This is not to say anything is better than the other. We're just here to understand the repercussions of how some things can lead to health issues later down the line. So let's talk about the impact of birth on someone's nervous system and how this can later lead to health issues and autoimmunity down the line.
Definitely. There are a couple things. So you obviously just brought up a ton of them. Okay, so let's talk about vaginal birth. So when we are birthed through the vaginal canal, we are actually seeding our mother's microbiome. The mother's microbiome is so, so important. The microbiome actually influences our vagus nerve development. And the vagus nerve is actually what helps wire the communication between our immune system and our nervous system. So when we don't get the mother's microbiome and we are born through C-section, we often miss the microbial exposure. And this will actually set us up for higher stress sensitivity and things like immune system dysregulation, because we all know that your microbiome is the seat of your immune system, and we need a healthy microbiome for vagal nerve activity. And then there's something that happens actually during the vaginal delivery. Babies experience a surge of hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline. And those hormones actually prime the lungs and the metabolism and the alertness of the baby. And this stress charge actually helps wire the nervous system for resilience later in life. So babies born during C-section often miss this surge of hormones, and then their nervous system is actually less prepared for immediate adaptation in other areas of their lives. We can also look at things as cord clamping, and the timing of cord clamping matters so much. I don't think people realize how much it matters, because when we cord clamp immediately, it actually shuts off placental oxygen and iron transfer. And when this happens too early, this actually can impair the baby's nervous system and can actually lead to metabolic health issues later in life. Then there are things like birth interventions. When we have to use forceps, these can really imprint somatically on the baby. The baby is going to be in fight or flight. The baby is going to turn into freeze, and the baby is going to have a lot of fascial tension and hypervigilance and chronic stress patterns that can actually hold years later in life when they're clamped down and forced out. And again, I know that we were just going to say there's might be a lot of sensitivity. I know sometimes we have to do these things, but I think the power is in the knowledge of understanding what these types of things can do and discussing the things that we can do to help these things later in life to actually help the nervous system come out of these stress responses. I also want to mention the mother's emotional state during birth, which also imprints the baby's nervous system. So a calm mother would really help imprint that oxytocin flood on the baby and give the baby a baseline of safety. And if the mother is in a panic, she's really adrenaline dominant, this will really stress the baby out and cause stress situations later on the baby's nervous system. And the number one thing also is like when we have birth, right then we're supposed to have the skin to skin contact. And this immediately stabilizes the baby's heart rate. It stabilizes the baby's cortisol rhythms. It directly stabilizes the baby's vagal nerve tone. And so when we have that separation, when there's a baby that has to get put into the NCU and stays in the NCU and doesn't have that skin to skin contact, that has a really big impact on the nervous system and really primes the baby for fear.
Yeah. And again, just prefacing all of this with the fact that like we have not given birth, and who knows, there might be a birth where one of us has to have a C-section or one of us has to use forceps or is not able to have any of these things. So we are just sharing knowledge exactly like Sarah said. So if you have gone through these things, if you are a new mum, if you are a mum, you can understand how to help your baby. And we're going to get into that in just a second because I had the worst colic as a child. And if my parents knew what I know now about being a baby with colic, I'm sure they would have done things to help me. So yeah, again, always delivered with love. I think this is so interesting. And I think we just have to think about the reality that we talk about adult trauma. We talk about the fact that trauma is too much, too fast, too soon, or not enough for too long. What more in life could be more too much, too fast, too soon than birth? So I think we also have to acknowledge that even for the best births, the ones that go the smoothest, there's still going to be the chance of that imprint on the baby who has gone from 9 months in the most gorgeous, like orange utero warm belly to being out in the world. Like it just is such an imprintive experience. So I think it's important that we talk about this to understand that these stress imprints that so many of us with autoimmune hold, they started so long before today. And I mentioned I had a lot of colic as a kid. My parents said I would just scream for hours and hours on end and was traumatizing for them. And clearly I was traumatized. And when I spoke with Sarah, she delivered me so much love. She was like, yeah, this is because your fascia was already tight from the stress hormones of being inside of your mum. And my mum had a very easy, but very fast birth, which in itself can be traumatic. So talk me through this kind of fascia piece. We love fascia. We think that fascia is going to be the next big thing in the wellness world. We've been talking about it for years. But what people aren't talking about is how a screaming baby or a baby with colic might need to be adjusted, might need myofascial movements in those first few months or even weeks of its life.
Yeah, so colic really was your body's first language of overwhelm. So when we talk about colic, it's not just about a baby's digestion. It's actually a baby that's usually high adrenaline and full on in stress state, like you said, Louise. And so the stress state is going to really lock their tissues and their fascia and their nervous system into this protection mode. And like I said, in womb, the baby is taking on the mother's stress hormone. So basically, they are protecting themselves through these different types of muscular and fascia tension from the mother's stress hormones. Usually when a baby is born very colically, they've already taken on the stress of their mother. And those stress hormones, they're going to be full on in all of the muscular tension. That's going to start to show up in tension in the tissues. It's going to show up in clenched guts, in shallow breathing patterns. And it's going to really imprint on that baby, the way that the baby breathes, a tight diaphragm. The baby might experience different types of digestive issues, and this can show up later in life with IBS, TMJ, all of those things, just because the fascia is tense. So we have to understand that your fascia is your hormonal highway, and it's also your energy highway. So all of your emotional imprints, all of your hormones, all of the energy has to actually move through your fascia for your body to work properly. We have an energetic system. Our health runs on an energy system. That's our fascia system. And if we were born with tense fascia, knots in the fascia, different types of stress patterns, they will show up later in life. And so the main thing here is the body work. And I know, Louise, in your daily devotion, you guys do a lot of body work. You're doing the somatic Pilates. This type of work is so amazing for the fascia because we have to unwind the fascia to release the energy. And things like tremor-based neurogenic shaking can also help the fascia. I know that you've incorporated some of that stuff into some of the exercises that you do in daily devotion. That also helps to help that energy release and helps to actually unwind the tension from the stress response, from all of those patterns that have been wired into you from a young age. When we use different types of somatic work, different types of body work, that helps to move those tension patterns away. And it actually helps to, in turn, balance your hormones, balance out your stress response, balance out your stress hormones. So I don't think people understand how important this body work is when it comes to stressful early life child patterns that have been held in the fascia.
You're so right. And you can have gentle adjustments for kids and myofascial release. And there's all kinds of things there. And there's the tongue ties. All of that needs to be looked at as well. And I think I also just want to say before we move on to childhood that this isn't an inevitable, like, oh, I didn't do this one thing and I fucked everything. Because, for example, if you look at my mum, she breastfed both me and my brother. So obviously we know that is more nurturing for the gut. We know that helps build the microbiome, the immune system, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just like this one thing will fuck everything. What I have realized through healing my autoimmune disorder is it's a bucket. Every single thing gets put in the bucket. And then at one day, at one point in life, that bucket finally overflows. And that's when the symptoms start to appear. So just understand that these are all little things that can be thought about as we go through life and we are imagining ourselves as like some sort of bucket. So I think this is so interesting because you're helping us understand how much we can already hold in the body as a kid. We imagine kids as like blank spaces, as blank canvases, which in a way they are, but actually through doing this work, there is so much genetic, epigenetic, in utero, and even if you're into it, past life energy that has passed over and can often remain housed in the body. So even by the time we get to talking about attachment trauma, which is what we're going to do now, the foundations have been laid. So a lot of us know that by the ages of 5 to 6, that attachment pattern is laid. Your nervous system understands what love means, whether it's safe, stable, consistent, etc., etc. But one thing you have taught me is if you go deeper than attachment styles, you're actually talking about the sensitization of a nervous system. So for these types of people who have autoimmune later in life, do you think it's fair to say that by this age of 5, their nervous system is already more sensitive than the average person?
Absolutely. So, those first 5 years of your life are really like a blueprint for the rest of your life. The vagus nerve, the pathways that regulate our stress response, and your brain circuits that help us differentiate safety from threat are all formed during this critical window. So, if stress hormones dominate early on, the nervous system can adopt a baseline of hypervigilance or on the other side, maybe shut down. It's constantly on high alert, or your nervous system might be collapsing into freeze. And it's not just the brain that's recording this. So, like we said, Louise, it's your fascia, it's your muscles, it's your connective tissue. All of these things are taking notes. And let's say a baby who's colicky like you and chronically tense is literally learning to hold itself in protection. So over time, these patterns can become your default posture, making it feel truly impossible to even relax, even in safety environments. Like this is like wired into you, and your body is just on edge at all times. And we can see that even our hormones are shaped during this time. So, like I mentioned before, the early cortisol surges will shape your HPA excess, and this is going to teach your body how reactive to be. So by age 5, you're going to be reacting to stress and you're going to be recovering slowly and you're going to have this heightened inflammatory response. And, this is all formed in your early life. Your metabolism is also created during this time. So, that chronic stress response is going to reduce your mitochondrial function, and this is going to reduce your ability to respond to stress. Okay, so I don't think people realize that your mitochondrial health plays a direct association with how well you respond to stress. We actually need energy to respond to stress. And if our mitochondrial health are damaged, we don't respond properly, and stress can take us out way more easily.
It's just so interesting, isn't it? Like it makes you think about the diet that you're feeding your children, the nutrients that they need to be able to be resilient. Because I and we talk all the time about how busy women, ambitious women, we are drained of so many minerals and vitamins. We need to replenish them via food. But it's like as kids, we weren't having these conversations. So that's really interesting. And alongside all of this, I think there's the emotional piece. Now, this was obviously where my journey started with somatic therapy and going back to realizing that I held a huge amount of shame in my body and a huge amount of fear around the expression of my emotions and being too much, being unlovable, being the sibling that wasn't my father's favorite, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what we have realized is that every emotion holds a frequency, as proved by Dr. David Hawkins, as proved by science, and that these frequencies run throughout our body. And when they overwhelm us, they get lodged into our tissues, into our cells, muscles, organs, systems, and they get held there. They become part of us because we are supposed to release these emotions. Gabor Mate went into the bomb shelter, did this study and said every single child that was scared was shaking, was chattering their teeth, was processing the energy of these overwhelming emotions. But the adults were sat there, no movement, no chattering, no crying, no nothing. So I know we're on the same page that these emotions can impact us on a biological level, even if we don't have a conscious recollection of this happening repeatedly. So talk me through your thoughts on this.
Definitely. Our emotions are really what run our mitochondrial health, and our mitochondrial health is what dictates all the energy functions in our body. So when we're dealing with really heavy emotions, let's say shame, for example. Louise, you just kind of mentioned that yourself. So what's going to happen to us? So biologically, our posture is going to collapse. We're going to round our shoulders, our neck is going to tighten, our fascia is going to tighten, our voice is going to restrict. And on that biochemical level, that density of shame, it's really going to start to lower our thyroid function and keep us in this low-grade stress response. So it is so huge, the impact that these types of emotions can have. Even fear, which I find is such a big one for so many people. What does fear do? Fear keeps us in our sympathetic nervous system response. So that's like dominant adrenaline, right? And that's going to tighten our diaphragm. That's going to overall like tighten our muscle tension. And what's going to happen there, right? So our body thinks we're under immediate threat. So if we're in this fear, our body thinks it's in a threat. That's going to show up with mitochondrial dysfunction. That's going to affect all other systems in our body. It's going to give us high baseline cortisol. It's going to tighten the fascia. It's going to tighten the energetic capacity of our body. And it's going to show up in all of these health issues, autoimmunity, gut issues, all of that from that emotional toxicity, because emotions are heavy, right? Your body can't create energy when we're in all of these stagnant emotions that we can't release. And just think it's so important for people to realize how important it is to process your emotions and to feel your emotions, because they really build up and affect every system of your body.
100%. And when we did our 12-week live journey, There She Glows, I think in module 2, you helped to explain to us that you don't have to have a conscious recollection of these experiences. And the reason for that is that either your brain was not developed, the area that actually lodges and codes these memories, like was not fully formed at these points, but also that when you are stressed, which is what's happening when these are happening, certain parts of your brain go offline. So you don't have a conscious recollection of that memory. So I just wanted to share that as well, because I know that so many girls with autoimmunity will be saying, I didn't have a bad childhood. My parents were fine. They're still together. Yeah, they fought a bit. Yeah, they bickered a bit, but like my childhood was fine. And that was me until I went into therapy. And Sarah had a bit more of a outwardly stressful childhood than me. And that's why I think our partnership is so great, because we both had the same issues, but we come from different sides of the coin, which means that everyone listening hopefully will be able to respond. And something that we talk about a lot is how by this point we've become kids that are primed for stress. We talk about this when we talk about anxious attachment. We talk about this when we talk about limerence, obsession, maladaptive daydreaming, trauma bonds, everything that we've done in the dating space. And it's just really important to reiterate that even though you didn't have that conscious recollection, by this point, your body is already scanning the world for threat. Since the moment you were conceived, all it has known is being hypervigilant and being hypersensitive and being aware to what is happening around you. So Sarah's helped me understand that is one of the connections to these types of women becoming type A personalities, because what comes with ambition and chasing your dreams? It comes with a ton of cortisol, a ton of adrenaline, but also a ton of hope and possibility. Like it literally gets me out of bed in the morning, not knowing what might happen today, like the excitement of that. So let's talk about how people are hooked on stress. Their nervous systems are hooked on stress in their childhood without them consciously even being aware of it.
Definitely. So, what I was talking about, the stress hormones as a child, that becomes your baseline, right? So, that becomes your early normal, and your body becomes primed to that type of hormonal cocktail. Okay. And so, I don't think people understand that stress chemistry itself is very addictive. Okay. We think about stress, we think about like, oh, stress should feel terrible. Like, stress is something that people shouldn't feel. But the hormones of cortisol and adrenaline, they don't just prepare us for danger, they actually help sharpen our focus. They create urgency. They give us a rush of energy that makes us feel powerful. And for most of us, makes us feel alive. And then you add in dopamine into the mix of that stress. That's the brain's reward chemical. And suddenly you have this loop. So it's the stress, it's the achievement, and then it's the relief. What is that person getting? It's actually a huge hormonal high. So as that little stressed out child becomes a woman, ambition and overdrive aren't just cultural conditioning like they maybe say it is. This is actually a neurochemical conditioning, okay? Her body has been trained to crave this urgency, to think of productivity, to feel safety through productivity. The only way this type of woman feels alive is through chasing things. And this type of woman is the one who chases success. She's overworking. She's even getting into a little bit of chaos. Maybe this type of woman is chasing toxic relationships. All these things are feeding into the loop that was created from childhood. You got to understand that connection there to your chemistry that feels normal. And the thing with these women is eventually this woman gets burned out because we cannot sustain these stress hormones long term. Our stress hormones are there for a reason. They're there to help us survive. They're there to help us run away from a tiger, but we can't run on them for a long time. And these types of women who are chasing the ambition, just like a drug, are the same type of woman who get burned out and who get things like autoimmunity and who are on the burnout, that burnout, okay, you're okay, that burnout, you're okay. I know, Louise, you've been through this pattern yourself. It's all from your early life chemistry that now you're repatterning later in life. So I think it's really important for people to understand that chronic stress loop that some of these women are in and they can't get themselves out of.
Yes, and I can't not say here how many women with autoimmune disorders have some sort of psychological father wound, also a mother wound, but this deep rooted feeling that they are not enough. And it is a visceral feeling. You can't explain it because you will have the achievements, you will have the body, you will have the friends. It's a feeling in your nervous system. That's what we mean by somatic experiencing. It was logged so long before there was a conscious story to it. And I just think it's so important that we acknowledge that these types of women, myself included, like Sarah said, you end up chasing. You end up chasing men for validation. You end up chasing a certain body type for validation, dressing, skincare, face, even aesthetics. You chase things in the hope that you might finally find the thing that feels good. So it's just important to understand that reflection, that mirror, that you are not just chasing ambition in your career, you are also chasing enoughness in your life. You are chasing validation in your romantic relationships. It's just mirrored across how we eat, how we shop, how we spend. It's so, so fascinating. And if anyone listening is anything like me, you will go and you will fucking love it. And it will become part of your personality. And in last week's episode, Stephanie said, rightly so, we don't need to tell type A women to heal because they have built lives that literally serve them to the T. But what it doesn't serve is their body. It doesn't serve their internal world. So let's talk about how at some point, somewhere, whether you're 5, 15, 25, 50, your body will start to communicate to you, hey, something is not good here.
Definitely. And I think a point to be made here is a lot of these women who are on this high, they're really disconnected from their body. And so they're living through their heads and it really starts to wear on them because they're ignoring their body signals until it becomes something more serious. But at first, you might experience things like your sleep starts to go off. You're going to notice some gut sensitivity. You're going to have some PMS. You might feel at night that wired but tired feeling when you get that second wind. And those are just kind of the beginning stages. Eventually, you're going to start having things like we mentioned earlier, like reoccurring infections and different types of hormonal imbalances. You're going to have skin issues and weight gain. And at this point, it's like if you're already dealing with autoimmunity, you're going to have your autoimmune flares during that time. You're also going to feel a lot of this stress in your fascia, and it's going to show up in your posture. A lot of people, their breathing is reflected in their stress, so they're not going to be breathing properly. They're going to have a lot of tension in their belly. They're going to have a lot of tension in their neck, and that's going to show up in, maybe tension headaches. And it's also going to show up in your moods. And I know these types of people, when you get to that point where the smallest stress feels like the largest stress. I'm talking to the people who are just losing it over like the smallest little things. Like they're just like, I can't handle any stress. I'm snapping at the smallest things. You're having like little mini mental breakdowns. This is really your body breaking down at this point. This is your body saying, I don't have the energetic capacity to heal you, to regenerate your body anymore. You're really in a breakdown mode. And this is like your body's way of screaming at you. And eventually these symptoms get louder. And right now we're talking about autoimmunity. And that's really like the end game of all of these things going off, right? Like autoimmunity is the breakdown point of your system when you're under too much chronic stress.
Exactly. And I think it's similar to Alzheimer's. They say that Alzheimer's starts 10 to 15 years before it shows up in your physical body, and autoimmunity is exactly the same. And I think that we also have to understand that it is this toxic stress that is making ambitious women sick. There is good stress. Sarah always explains that a little bit of stress is actually anti-inflammatory. Cortisol is supposed to be anti-inflammatory. It's that we live in a world of toxic stress where it just chips away at your health and your hormones and your happiness over time until you have an internal environment that is inflamed, it is dysregulated, it is out of homeostasis. And instead of slowing down, you just push through. You think, oh, I feel good after taking a hot Pilates class or doing an ice bath, so I'm going to go and do that this Saturday. What are you doing? You are pushing that inflammation deeper and that dysregulation. And it's such a domino effect of that nervous system being in permanent overdrive and dysregulation of so many systems that come as a result of that consistent dysregulation over decades, even if you do not feel dysregulated. And I cannot emphasize that enough. The busiest, best times of my life from the outside world, I just had no idea what was going on in my internal world because it was covered by dopamine, adrenaline, validation, cortisol, and more. So let's start to get into the systems that are breaking down as a result of all of this toxic stress. You've spoken about gut issues, IBS, PCOS, thyroid issues, fatigue. We've also spoken before about viral reactivations. Like any virus that is reactivating repeatedly is just a sign that your body is really stressed. Talk me through whether these are the symptoms or the root cause of autoimmunity.
Yeah, so symptoms are always just the symptom on the iceberg. You got to think all of these things going on, your gut issues, your fatigue, your mood changes, these are just symptoms. So I guess the question is like, what's happening when your body starts to break down? So these stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, they're going to slow down your thyroid. They're going to slow down your mitochondria. And then your body is not going to be able to repair and defend itself. And one of the biggest things that starts to happen here, the main thing with autoimmune, is our physical barriers start to break down. So that's your gut lining, it starts to become leaky. Your liver slows down, your blood-brain barrier starts to open, your connective tissues start to tighten, all of your circulation starts to restrict, your lymphatic flow starts to slow down. And then once all those barriers are broken, things like infections and toxins and microbial overgrowth are going to start to get in. And so what's going to happen there? These things are obviously very stressful on your system. Your immune system is going to start to come in there and it's going to start to fire a lot of inflammation. And what happens at that point, you're going to have histamine release, your tissues are going to swell, your body is going to be at its weakest point because your body is breaking down. I also see a lot of things like estrogen dominance start to happen because estrogen rises under any type of chronic stress. And that's going to even make things worse. That's going to slow your detox. That's going to keep your nervous system on high alert. That's going to cause every single one of the issues we just talked about. So basically, you can just see it as like all of these barriers breaking down. And we go in there and we try and treat the symptoms. We're going in there thinking we got to take a hormonal vitamin or when realistically it's the stress hormones that are breaking every system down. So we always have to look at it like an iceberg, and what's happening below all of your symptoms is actually what's causing it. And you got to attend to the stress chemistry to fix everything else.
So happy you mentioned histamine. It's everywhere at the moment, and a lot of people are struggling with it, particularly women. I would just love to just get clear on exactly what is going on with all of these high performing, busy, stressed women who have MCAS. And is it correct that basically your mast cells are immune cells? They are supposed to release histamine. It's a normal part of the body. Under normal conditions, they basically help to protect against like infections and intruders and like allergens. But then under chronic stress, they become dysregulated because they're part of the immune system. So if the immune system is dysregulated because the nervous system is dysregulated, then they start to basically over release histamine. And then that leads to a ton of mysterious health conditions. Is that correct? And let's just jam on that because I know people are listening to this probably being like, wait, fuck, that's me.
Yes, the wellness world is talking about histamine because it leads to every single health issue that you wouldn't even think it's related to. So first of all, what is histamine? It's just the chemical portion of stress. Your mast cells release histamine to protect you, to make you alert, to the stress in your body. And so what's happening with women who are overly stressed out, their barriers are breaking down. So they're getting all of these toxins and infections and accumulation of stress. Remember the stress bucket, the stress chemistry. And then you have overreactive mast cells because the body is seeing so much stress that the histamine bucket is overflowing, right? So you're absolutely right there because that can lead to things like anxiety and IBS and mental health issues and just so many different diagnoses that we don't connect the dots to the histamine in the body that's creating that. So what is histamine? It's a neurotransmitter that actually cause a heightened stress response. So just think about that. Worse periods. You're going to feel mentally insane during your periods. You're going to feel like your body is on this hyperactive stress response. And it's kind of like a pattern where the more histamine you release, the more estrogen dominant you get, the more histamine you release from estrogen. Estrogen also makes you release histamine. So people are on this wheel of histamine, estrogen, stress, and their bodies are breaking down. And no doctor knows how to diagnose them with anything because they don't understand the chemistry of the body that goes along with stress. So I think this is so important to get out there with all of these women experiencing these types of things and the root cause of why their body is overproducing histamine, why their mast cells are creating heavy amounts of histamine because of the stress that's happening in their body and the bucket that's overflowing at this point.
Oh, this is so good because, like you've said, highly stressed, high cortisol, or even low cortisol when you've gone straight into burnout, that leads to that estrogen dominance. And it's the hormones modulate the histamine. So if your estrogen is up and you've lost your buffer, which is your progesterone, because your stress has driven your progesterone down, it's like you're just basically raw dogging it in ways you're not meant to. And then we wonder why everyone on TikTok tells you to take an antihistamine tablet without understanding like all of this is rooted in trauma and emotional suppression, inflammation, toxicity. Like it is not something you can just take an antihistamine tablet for. It goes so much deeper. So love that we are talking about this. Love that we're connecting the dots all the way back even to being born. This is such a good episode today. Hopefully you're understanding how deep all of these things go. And another thing when we're living in this state of stress is we then start to lose our nutrients. Our liver doesn't start to work properly. We have poor detoxification and it all backs up into our body. I see that a lot with psoriasis. I'm always trying to say to my brother, I love you. If it's coming out of the skin, it's because it has nowhere else to go. We see this also, like I said, with viral reactivations, anyone with cold sores or HPV or herpes or any virus, Epstein-Barr, glandular fever, literally anything. These are all interconnected in ways that the average wellness influencer is not explaining. So let's talk about these things and the connection to autoimmune.
Yeah. So again, these issues aren't random, right? Like none of these issues are random. When we get these signs and symptoms, when these things start to happen to us, your body is working as a system and everything is connected. So we obviously know under chronic stress, our body depletes all of our essential vitamins and minerals. This is why a lot of these symptoms start to show up, because we don't even have the minerals and the vitamins for our systems to work properly. I don't think people understand, or women at least. We think about hormonal imbalances, and our hormones actually run on minerals. And so when we're chronically stressed out, our minerals severely deplete. Okay. And that means we are going to have chronic hormonal imbalances because our hormones are actually built on minerals. Women don't really know that. And so, again, what's going to happen? So, our inflammation is going to accelerate with all of these hormonal imbalances. We're going to start to burn through all of the vitamin minerals that are essential for our moods and for our liver to detox. Our liver actually needs nutrients and enzymes to detox properly. It's not just like your detoxification slows down, it's that when your vitamins and minerals are depleted, that actually slows down the detox pathways. And that's going to affect other systems like your thyroid, which again, your thyroid is the energy producer in all of your cells. Your thyroid energy is so critical for every single process that your body does, including detoxing, removing all of the metabolic byproducts, all of the accumulation. When we're overly stressed out, our body doesn't need to just detox toxins. Our body needs to detox our stress hormones. So think about that. The liver actually detoxes your cortisol and your adrenaline. Okay, I think people need to understand that the liver plays such a crucial role. And then when we're depleted in all of these things like vitamins and minerals because of the stress response, none of our systems work properly. And like you just said, Louise, this is when things like our immune system cannot protect us anymore. Because what does our immune system run on? Our immune system also runs on mitochondrial energy. That's the mitochondria, which are the energy producers in all your cells. And when we're depleted, the immune system can't protect us. So all of these viral infections, even things that were dormant, starts to come up again. Epstein-Barr is such a huge one. It causes a lot of inflammation on the system. But Epstein-Barr isn't the first thing that happens. What happens is a body that's deficient and a body that's overburdened by stress chemistry. So that's so important for women to understand, that it's just this bucket that's overflowing that's causing all of these issues, causing all of the nutrient deficiencies and mineral deficiencies and follow-on impact.
Oh, I'm loving this. I am loving this. This is such important information. And hopefully by now you guys are understanding that all of these things interconnected over the space of many years finally tip over into symptoms, which over time become chronic, which over time become your autoimmune diagnosis. If you go into a traditional doctor's surgery, they will diagnose you. That is how they function. If you enter into the holistic world, they will understand that your body is responding to its own internal world. So let's just talk for 1 second about how in the non-traditional medical world, we do not believe that the immune system is attacking itself. People just say, oh, I have an autoimmune. My immune system is attacking itself. No. In our world, your immune system is attacking something inside of your body, because your beautiful, incredible, deeply honorable, amazing immune system has one job, which is that it loves you, it adores you, it's obsessed with you. All it wants to do is keep you safe. And if it sees things inside of you that are toxic, that should have been removed by your liver, etc., yes, it is going to go into attack mode. So again, if anyone's in the traditional medical world, they'll be like, this is bullshit. But when you're in this world, we know that we are right. How else would I have healed a 20-year autoimmune disorder that I was told was unhealable? So give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I would say that an autoimmune diagnosis is really the body's way of saying, I'm confused. Okay, your body is confused. Over years and years, your body was sending all of these mixed signals. Okay, the immune system is on high alert, your inflammation is up, the toxins, infections start to accumulate. What did I say? Your barriers are starting to break down. So you can think of this as like a toxic and inflammatory bucket that's completely overflowing. And all of your body's signals are scrambled. And the body starts attacking itself, not because it wants to, but because it doesn't know what else to do, because it's seeing so many things and it doesn't have any clear signals to heal. Your body is so overwhelmed And it really just needs deeper level support. What did we say? Your body needs energy to heal. Your body needs to be able to detox. You have to have stress regulation. The immune system cannot balance without any of these things. It can't sort itself out until you attend to those root cause stressors. So I think it's just so important that women understand that it's not you and, it's not your body turning on you. And I think it's really important that we take our power back to understand really what's happening at the root cause so we can really heal and understand that like our bodies are always working for us. Our bodies are so powerful. Our bodies are not breaking down. Our bodies are just confused.
Oh, yeah, I love it. So important. So by this point, we are adults who have built successful lives around us because this type A person is very good at going after what they want. They're very good at not giving up until they get there. They are very good at just continuing until they find the thing that works. Now, the problem with this is that an autoimmune will continue to thrive in the same environment that made you sick. And we often say that surviving, striving, and stressing prevents the body from being able to truly start the healing process. But at the same time, we also understand that no one can just go to a desert island for 6 months and just chill the fuck out. Because you bet every week, Sarah and I are like, I wish we could go to our desert island this week, but it's just not the reality of life. So, talk to me in your practice, the types of things that you see that someone might be like, okay, I've got an autoimmune. Okay, I don't want to go down the traditional medical route. Okay, I'm going to go on this journey myself. But things always seem to be blocking any real progress. Talk me through that.
Absolutely, because like we said, there are patterns and wiring that has been wired from us at an early age. And these survival strategies are really stopping people from beating these types of things. Like we said, the chronic stress cycle, right? Most of these women are addicted to a cycle that I usually see that's the burn, crash, burn cycle. And that's that cycle where, they're addicted to that hormonal cocktail. And so even when they try and slow down, it feels so painful in their nervous system because that is how they get their high. That is how they feel alive in their life. So these women say, okay, I'm going to try and take these hours off work. I'm going to try and take 2 days off. I'm going to try and do the diet. I'm going to do the exercise. I'm going to do all of the things that you're telling me. And I can give these women, honestly, and I've seen this time and time again, the perfect on paper protocol. They can be on the right supplements. We can be supporting every system of their body when it comes to the foundations. But really, it's them pushing their stress response that's pushing them into these cycles of, okay, I feel dead inside. I'm going to push and I'm going to chase. And it puts them back and makes them start from the beginning again. So I think the nervous system work and the rewiring and the somatic work is baseline where these women need to begin of rewiring these patterns, because I can give them the best protocol. I can do the things for them, but realistically, it's their nervous system patterns that are wired from the beginning that really stops them from achieving that, really getting out of that autoimmune response and not going into those flares. They say with autoimmune, it's like, let's just keep it in remission. And I hate how they talk about that because I've worked with women with autoimmune that have never had a flare ever again. They've completely healed themselves, but it's those women that keep pushing and keep striving for those goals that keep getting the flares and then throwing themselves out of remission. So like everything that we just discussed here, it's so critical to understand the early life patterns and to help rewire those patterns so that you're not pushing that stress response and pushing yourself out of that remission.
100%. And yeah, and I will be honest, you know me, I have healed nearly everything in my life, but I still crash the fuck out on a Sunday. I will text you like, Sarah, it's midday. I literally can't open my eyes. And then at 4 p.m., I'll be like, it's okay. I'm alive. I'm awake. I'm back. And it's because like I had no fucking cortisol to wake me up in the morning. And so I really do understand how difficult it is to really get a grip when stress feels so good and when you have to show up to work. Sarah has clients. I have 3 businesses. I can't imagine what it's like if you have kids as well. Like it is difficult. And that's why we talk a lot about building this internal resiliency. And I think that is what I have done, is that I am more resilient than before. So I might crash the fuck out on a Sunday, but I'm not having a 5-day pain flare, which I might have done 2 years ago. So someone listening to this might feel overwhelmed. We've spoken about the gut, we've spoken about the liver, we've spoken about the thyroid, the histamine, the hormones. And I get it. That's why we want to do more work in this space, to bring you guys the answers in a very busy world. But where should someone start other than the obvious, which is stop working on the fucking weekends, stop working at 10 p.m. at night, stop scrolling until midnight, stop doing HIIT and ice workouts? That's the obvious stuff. Over to you on where people should actually start.
Yeah. So when someone is in this burnout phase or experiencing any type of autoimmune flare, I would say that the first system to work on is the mitochondria and the energy system. So the cellular health system. The system is so important because, like I said, energy runs your entire body. And what's happening during burnout is that your body actually doesn't have the energetic capacity to do the functions that it was meant to do. It's completely burned out, and you are basically conserving energy at this point. So, the one thing I would say, number one, is you're severely depleted, and your cells run on nutrients and they also run on minerals. So, I would make sure that someone is really making sure that they are adding in those nutrients and those minerals and taking things like, I take Quinton isotonic minerals. They're amazing minerals. There's 84 sea water minerals in there. I also make sure that I'm adding in things during the day that have minerals, high mineral content, bee pollen, things like seafood, things like aloe juice. Our mineral stores, again, create our hormones. And someone who's in the burnout phase is completely wiped from all of their minerals. So making sure that your diet is on par, making sure that you're supplementing where you have been depleted in those nutrients is so critical. Another thing that I would say, obviously, foundations are so important. I know, Louise, you just talked about like that chronic stress response, not doing those things, but I don't think people understand how important things like sunlight and circadian rhythm, like your sun exposure and your light exposure, is actually more important than your food. That's like literally light comes before food, because your light rhythms run every single pattern in your body. They run your entire hormonal rhythm. They help balance your HPA excess. They help all of your hormones to balance. They help your body detox properly. Everything runs on a rhythm. And if your light rhythms are out of tune, meaning, let's say you're in your office all day, you haven't gotten out and got sun at all, you're not getting your morning sun in the morning, or you're on your screen at night, your entire system's going to break down. I'm telling you, that's like such a critical aspect piece. I would say invest in something like red light glasses. I would say invest in something like circadian lighting in your home, and make sure that you are getting sun at certain times during the day. You need in the morning, you need throughout the afternoon, you need sunset sun. Every wavelength of sun is critical for different functions in your body. So make sure that you're getting the wide spectrum of sunlight throughout the day.
Yeah. And look, these busy women, it's so difficult to get outside. Am I right? You wake up, you turn your phone on, there's the 100 notifications, you want a coffee, you want to sit down and start the day. But through working with you and learning even what you just shared there, like, this is one of the reasons that I have created my walks. Because the more and the more that I researched, like, I knew I had to get outside in the first 30 minutes of the day. But if I didn't have a playlist or a podcast, I just would not do that. And we know that walking reduces cortisol, which is at the root of so much of this. It regulates out the nervous system at the root of so much of this. But again, if you can only start walking in the morning, at lunch, and in the evening, that is the foundations of where you start to heal. Like, even last Sunday, I messaged Sarah. I said, God, I'd had the best week. I'd had the best week. But I messaged her being like, I am dead. I have crashed so hard. What should I do? Because I now know that rotting on the sofa, eating a pizza, is not restorative rest. And she said, go outside for a walk, do a box breath whilst you are walking. I couldn't even open my eyes, guys. I was so fucking tired. And I went outside and I walked for 30 minutes, no sunglasses, sunlight. I did that box breathing. I actually recorded a walk whilst I was out there as well. I just felt like a different person. And yeah, I didn't come home being like, okay, I'm ready, let's fucking go. But I felt slightly more alive, more energized, more normal. So I think this starting with metabolic health, starting with circadian rhythm, so crucial. And for anyone who's listening to this, who's thinking, yes, want to work with Louise and Sarah more on this, you are in luck because we have developed the Morning Rally bundle and experience, which is going to go live on Monday, 28th of September. You get 3 walks, so you can literally get up and get out of the door. We have a 90-minute premium podcast and masterclass in there with Sarah. I am so excited what we share in this masterclass. So you can either come and join that for free as part of your daily devotion subscription, or we will be selling this bundle as a product once that live challenge is complete. So again, head over to the show notes if you want to join us on that journey.
Okay, yeah, Louise. And you saying that you're crashing on a Sunday, this is just a sign of functional freeze. I mean, obviously, in the nervous system world, we've all heard of functional freeze, but I don't think people understand that functional freeze is a biological thing. So this is when, your thyroid starts to slow down. This is when things start to slow down and your body is conserving energy. So I just want you to know that when we talk about freeze and all of these nervous system states, there's something biologically going on in the body. I mean, you can really attend to these things and give the body more cellular energy so that we don't go into these types of states.
Love. We're going to also cover all of that in the workshop too.
Yeah, honestly, I am so obsessed with walking. Louise, I know that I used to tell you, like, my walking has been my therapy my entire life because we talked about how all of our emotions carry a frequency, right? And obviously, we think about like somatic shaking, all of those things. For me, my somatic work has actually been my walks because all of my walks help me disperse all of my energy. Honestly, every time I feel heavy in my body, I go outside, I have a walk, I feel so much lighter. It starts to regulate my nervous system. It starts to move some of those energy patterns out of my fascia. My body starts to get energy. Our fascia, when it moves, we create energy, right? And so a walk is like the best thing that I can get during my day. Sometimes I would say that I walk too much, but I'm absolutely obsessed with my walks. I know that so many girls are obsessed with their Pilates and like all of their workouts, but your walk, I would say, is the most medicinal thing out there. That walk is going to help support your somatic healing. It's going to help with your emotional release. It's going to help regulate your nervous system. It's going to help down regulate your stress hormones. So I'm absolutely obsessed with walking. And I'm so excited that you're putting these challenges out there because I myself am doing your challenges, Louise, and I'm already seeing so many benefits. And I can't recommend them enough to all of the girls out there.
Oh, love
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much. And another thing that you taught me is about how walking and also weightlifting can basically help push glucose into your cells and your muscles. And what I don't think people listening realize is that if you have an autoimmune, it's likely rooted for most people in high toxic stress and cortisol, which throws off your blood sugar regulation. Sarah's going to explain what is going on here and why you feel like so gross if you don't move. But the irony is that this type A woman, like we get so locked into our laptop with so much to do that even if consciously we know we should move, we don't. But just talk me through this insulin, glucose, because I know it's really connected to PCOS, androgens, those chin hairs and neck hairs that we get, or maybe just me.
Mm.
So let's talk through why you love movement and walking and weightlifting for that as well.
Definitely. I think women really need to understand that their blood sugar regulation is the most important thing they can do for their body. So, what does sugar do, right? When we can get sugar into our cells, we create energy. Everything that our body does is an energy process. And so, being able to get the sugar in the cell is the most critical piece for every system to function, for our brain to function, for our organs to function. For every single healing process, our cells need to be able to uptake glucose and be able to utilize that. And the big thing with women under stress is that their blood sugar levels get dysregulated. And why is that? Because a stressful body creates more blood sugar because a stressful body is like it's running away from the tiger. And what naturally happens to our body when we start running away from a tiger is our blood sugar levels go up because our body thinks it needs to survive. And so women tend to develop things like insulin resistance and even pre-diabetes because these blood sugar levels are overwhelming and their body is not able to put that blood sugar into the cell to be utilized. What happens when we move our body and when we lift weights? We are actually helping the body to utilize that blood sugar properly. And so, what does that mean? More brain energy, more energy to go to healing our organs. We start to feel way better when our blood sugar is regulated because the cells are able to uptake that glucose and utilize it better. So, they say walking after meals is the best way to regulate your blood sugar after a meal. 15-minute walk after a meal is the best way to utilize your blood sugars. So, walking is critical. Blood sugar regulation is critical for any woman dealing with autoimmune or any health issue. Any health issue is rooted in a metabolic issue, and any metabolic issue is rooted in blood sugar issue. So I think it's so critical to do all of the things to regulate our blood sugar, walking being one of the easiest things that we can add into our daily routine. You're going to start to feel better. That sugar is going to be utilized better, and every system in your body is going to work better.
Love it. Now, we could just keep going. And in a way, I really want to, because I want to dive into PCOS, like why. So, to anyone that's listening, I did some focus groups before I built these walks because I needed to go into the market and I needed to talk with busy women about what their realities were. And by doing these focus groups, it was so crazy because 90%, 90% of these type A women that I interviewed had PCOS. And it was something crazy, like 75% had hypermobility and 60% had endometriosis. Like, it was just crazy to put 30 women in this room and realize, like, wow, everyone has some variation of what is going on in here. We probably don't have time to go into that today. And I would really love, in an ideal world, that one day Sarah will be able to do a course for PCOS, a different course for adrenal PCOS, because that is different. Everything, like, that is the end goal here, is we want to build the ultimate ecosystem for you guys. But for now, I just want to ask you, why do so many women have PCOS? Is it, again, just stress?
Okay, so I want people to understand, obviously, we know the PCOS blood sugar connection, but stress is mental, physical, and emotional, right? And like we said, the toxic bucket, whenever we're under stress, our blood sugar levels are going to raise and we're going to become insulin resistant. And that is the lead on to PCOS. Anytime I say to myself, anytime I feel that I'm eating too much sugar or that I'm too stressed out, I'll see, like, I mean, this is so embarrassing. There'll be like a chin hair or something. And I'm like, okay, I know I'm becoming resistant if I see that on my face, right? I'll see the difference in my arms. Like, if I get more arm fat, that's an insulin thing, right? But that's rooted in blood sugar levels. And again, like I said, anytime our stress bucket overfills, we're going to deal with blood sugar issues. We're going to become insulin resistant. And then we're going to develop things like PCOS, and all of that hormonal cocktail is also in there. Because remember, we were talking about estrogen and histamine and cortisol. This is the stress bucket. This is like the stress chemistry. So these women who have high histamine have hypermobility issues. They also have estrogen dominance. They also have insulin issues. So it's all connected, depending on how it develops in each individual. But again, there's also that rooted nervous system chemistry, that chronic stress response. There's also the chemistry of seeing stress, a heightened stress response, right? The HPA excess that we've been talking about. It's all connected. So we just got to get to the root of rewiring those patterns, using different types of movement and somatic therapy, eating in a way that can combat the insulin resistance to combat these types of issues.
And it's not embarrassing at all. I literally will message Sarah being like, I have a beard. Like, straight up, like, I have a beard. And she's like, yeah, me
Yeah.
too. And we're like, okay, we need to stop working so much. Like, straight up, like, I went to fully go and get electrolysis because I had a beard. And Sarah was like, what the fuck is electrolysis? I was like, okay, babe, your facial hair is obviously not that bad if you don't know what electrolysis is. Like, I have mine like burnt off with a needle. But now I know it's just a sign. It's like a sign that I'm working too hard, running too fast. I'm not moving that glucose through my system. I'm not lifting enough. I'm not walking enough. And yeah, I mean, we're just so obsessed with walking now. I'm like doing 20,000 steps a day. And my boyfriend's like, babe, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm so good. I'm so good. But yeah, I'm grateful for you sharing that. One thing that I also just want to discuss as we come into the last section of today's episode is the type A woman gets very focused on their healing plan, on regimented protocols, okay, it becomes another type A thing. You get high on the excitement of scrolling for 3.5 hours on gluten-free recipes, products, non-toxic products, going on whatever and buying new products. And I'm going to buy new trainers so I can go and walk. And you again can get high on the pursuit of health. And I've literally been there so many times. I just want to bring this back to the root, which is like, if you cannot start to slow down and if you can't go back to the trauma that is at the center of the bullseye, then no amount of like wellness girl bossing is ever going to take you out of your autoimmune. So talk me through if you see this in practice and how you see like trauma, somatic healing, EMDR being a part of the autoimmune puzzle.
Yeah, I think the wellness space is people who become obsessed with wellness and it just becomes another stress on their nervous system. I really want people to understand that healing is really about connecting back to the body and it is not about outsourcing, which we tend to outsource, right? Like the perfect diet, the perfect supplement, the perfect routine. And that in itself becomes another stressor. So a lot of the nervous system work and the somatic healing is so healing to the body because this allows you to really go back into your body and release a lot of the tension that's creating that chronic stress response. So it's really helping you discharge all of the chronic stress energy that your body has been holding for years. And when we start to remove that stress energy, that's going to improve not only the stress response and not feel like you're in that chronic wheel of stress, but you're going to also have improved circulation. You're going to have electrical coherence in your tissue. You're going to allow your immune system to finally calm down. And I love things like breath work. We were just talking about like CO2. Louise was talking about box breathing with her walks. So breath work is so essential because CO2, which is found in our breath, allows our cells to create more energy. Breathwork allows the vagus nerve to calm down. It allows your stress response to resolve itself. So breathwork is amazing. That's something I would definitely recommend for women. This is why your morning rally walks are so powerful because it's going to ease that sympathetic dominance, drop all of your stress hormones. And in return, we were talking about cellular health. So what happens here? The mitochondrial energy starts to improve. The inflammation is going to start to decrease. And things like EDMR, I really love. And this helps with the emotional processing. This helps with the imprints that have been normalized, those danger signals in your body that have been normalized. This will reduce that hypervigilance. And what does that do in turn? That's going to reduce the histamine. It's going to reduce the estrogen overactivity. All those things that are fueling your autoimmunity are going to start to go away. So when you put all of these tools together, they give such a foundation for the repair and the regeneration and help your body shift out of all of those immune flare cycles that you've been in.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's why I created them. It was like I didn't have time to do 20 minutes of breath work, 20 minutes of walking, 20 minutes of EFT tapping. And I love that you also mentioned earlier about the electrolytes. Like that's been a huge part of working with you and doing my own qualifications is building out this type A resilience, stress optimization, like set of supplements that I need, you need, we all need. And that's also going to be covered in the masterclass because there is specific things that autoimmune girls, type A, toxic stress girls need to be taking that the average wellness influencer is not talking about. So yeah, I am there with everyone who has gone through this journey. Healing is so possible. And I guess as we come to wrap, if you could just tell every ambitious eldest daughter that is listening to this, the type A, the autoimmune girl, what have you got to say to them that we haven't already covered?
Okay. I think the most important thing is you come first. A lot of the women with autoimmunity, they're putting everything outside of them as priority, their job, their relationship, the achievement, and they're overriding their own body signals. They come last. These are the women that are working 12 hours in front of the computer. They're not feeding themselves well. They're forgetting that they come first, and you can't perform unless you put yourself first. That's when the body's going to break down. So I think my main thing for women is say, do you have your foundations and are you attending to you first before anything else? And like I said, this is a pattern that needs to be broken because some women do not feel comfortable putting themselves first. They got their worth through what they can achieve or what they can do or how hard they can love. And I think that's the overperformance that's pushing all of these women in these autoimmune cycles. So that would really be my number one. And my number two would be allow yourself to move through your emotions because most of these women are cut off from that mind body connection. And that's when they've silenced their body screams, right? They've silenced their basic needs, when to eat, when to do the things to tend to your foundations. They've cut that connection off. So feel through your emotions, allow yourself to feel, work on that somatic therapy, do different types of therapies that can help you feel your emotions, that can help you remove that toxic stress, that toxic energy, because that's just building up. So I think those would be the two most important things. And I think that if women just attend to just those two things, I think their life would really change.
Oh, I love it. I think something we never spoke about as well is like the connection to the good girl, which is exactly what you just brought up there. We could again do a whole episode on the connection between the good girl, how we are just taught to just like be the one that doesn't cause any problems, just get on with it, just like be self-sufficient. We suppress our voice, we suppress our emotions, we don't stand up for ourselves, we don't make a lot of noise or fuss. Maybe we've been shamed in childhood for that. We're scared to use our voice, and it just turns into emotional suppression. And that is a persistent state of toxic stress. So, fuck being the good girl. Just go on that journey to ask, like, who taught me that my voice wasn't worthy? Who taught me to be quiet? For me, it was my dad, my brother, not so much my mum, definitely the male figures in my life. And no shade to them. They were just dealing with their own shit. But like now I'm like, fuck you. Like, fuck you. My voice matters and I deserve to be like loud and proud and share how I feel. And Sarah and I talk every single day that we are alive, whether we feel good, whether we feel bad, whether we feel angry, whether we feel excited. Like, just find one person that you can be honest with, one person where there is no secrets, one person where you can share your deepest fears and your greatest dreams. It's so important to start using your voice because I guess, and we didn't even put this in our episode plan, but final question, is it a coincidence that the thyroid is right next to the throat chakra? I
Mm.
don't think so.
Yeah, Louise, I just want to touch on everything that you're saying. I think everything comes back to authentic self-expression. And when we have these types of early attachment traumas, we lose our authentic self, right? We had to make ourselves feel small. We haven't been able to use our voice. We've had to shame parts of ourselves. And we've lost that authentic connection to who we really are. And I think what's really important to understand is that nervous system regulation is the same as authentic self expression. So if you can express who you truly are and feel okay with that, like we said, find one friend who allows you to be so in your authentic truth, who sees the deepest depths of you, that's what heals you. That's what regulates your nervous system. So I know we've talked about many things that can help with nervous system regulation, but at the core of it all is knowing who you are and expressing that authentic truth of who you are. That is the medicine.
I love it. I love it. And going on this journey will help you find out who you are because often this type of woman, myself included, like my whole identity was my career. I didn't really know who I was outside of it. And I felt so safe inside of it because I fucking loved every second of it. But being friends with Sarah and going on this healing journey and falling in love has helped me explore who I really am and what I feel and how I care so much about animals and God and the universe and energy and all of the things that I never really thought to say out loud. I just thought I loved Pilates and matcha. And don't get me wrong, I do, we do. But underneath it, Sarah and I also talk about past lives and future lives and astrology and human design and trauma and energy and just everything. So just find what lights you up, even if you think it's weird, even if you've been told that it's weird. Who the fuck cares. If you love it, that is all that matters. You will find your people. They are out there. And if you come and join the Morning Rally Challenge, you will definitely find them in there. I love these community challenges because the same types of people are in the same space and you'll get access to a community room as part of it. So this has been such a good episode. It's actually turned into a frigging masterclass of its own. I know that there's going to be more questions like what supplements, what probiotic, what liver support, what meals, should I go gluten, should I go dairy free, how long should I walk for, how much morning sun, what kinds of breath work, etc., etc., etc. All of those are going to get answered in our Morning Rally Masterclass. So come and join us. And all the links are in the show notes. We're so excited to have you there. I have really loved this. I feel like it's been so authentic and real and truthful to our own experiences and also to the experience of so many people listening. So I love you so much. I love working with you. I love being your friend. I love being on this journey with you. And I'm so excited for September the 28th when we get to go deeper and help more people.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. I really just love the honest conversations, just like the real and raw, like this is real reality. And this is, we're just not patching anything up. And I know so many women are going through this and just need to hear the truth of it all. So thank you for being real and raw and allowing me on here and sharing your truth with me and just being my best friend. I'm so happy to have you in my life. And I'm so happy to be part of everything that you're doing for all of these women out there.
Oh, I feel the same way. I'm so excited for us to keep going down this journey, down this path. Just today, we were talking about maybe doing a day immersion, a weekend immersion, maybe doing something in London, New York, Dubai for women like us. So yeah, make sure you come and join the morning rally because those will be the people that will find out about what comes next. But yeah, this has been so fun. Love you so much. And everyone else, we love you too. And we will see you on the next episode. Goodbye.